The plumbing project is finished. I've got 3 manifolds of valves and tons of pipes, and everything is connected and ready for a brew day. Let me show you what we got here. First of all, on the top shelf here, I've got 2 3-way valves and 2 2-way valves, and these connect a combination of the hot liquor tank, the rims tube, and the mash tun down here on the bottom shelf. On the bottom shelf you can see I've got 2 manifolds of valves, and I've got on each of these manifolds 3-way valve on the outside and a 2-way valve in the middle. And same thing over here, 3-way valves on the outsides and a 2-way valve in the middle. Let me explain how this works. First, I'm just going to get this out of the way. Okay. The way a 3-way valve works is you can go in any of the 3 directions that you have a port, and this little lever flips around in 360 degrees, and if you follow the legend of the arrows there, when it's like this, it's going straight across. When you point it to the right, it will go up and to the right, or from the right and down. If you flip it over here to point it to the left, it'll go to or from the left and down. And you'll notice with this arrow pointing up, there's nothing up there, nothing's going to go that direction. Same thing as if you have it like this, nothing going up, so it's going to go straight through. The other direction you can have it is with all 3 arrows pointing at openings, and then you have water or wort or whatever going in all 3 directions. You notice here I've got that plug blocked off. If you're spinning things around, it'll drip, so I block it off. Okay, so start a brew day here. Well, the way I'd start a brew day is I'd hook up the water hose here that comes in the bottom manifold here, and it's going to work its way across the manifold. I would have that valve turned off there, these 2 valves straight through, go around to the pump, go around the output of the pump, come up in the middle here. I'd have the right hand valve blocked off so it wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Since it's this way, there's nothing going this way, it blocks it, so it forces the wort to go this direction, or the water. The water goes across the straight through valve, works its way up to the top here, goes across this other 3-way valve, it'll go straight across. This valve would be turned off. Another straight through valve turned off, straight through on that 3-way. This 2-way turned off. Open up my hot liquor tank, and I'd shoot water into the hot liquor tank and fill it up as far as I need it. Once the hot liquor tank is full, then what I would do is temporarily I'd shut off this valve over here. Now while the hot liquor tank is warming up, I turn on this little pump here, and I would lock this out, open up this 2-way valve, and if you look, the hose from that 2-way valve goes up, and I got a recirculating arm up in the top there, and that'll just keep things circulating in the HLT until it warmed up, and that way the temperature of the water would stay constant throughout it. Once I've got everything to the right temperature, I would shut off the recirculating arm, and I would make this valve go straight through, follow it straight across, and over to this 2-way valve. I'd lock this valve on the left, open up the 2-way valve, water would come down the hose, the 2-way valve's on, and it'd shoot into my hot liquor tank through my sparge arm, fill up the hot liquor tank with strike water. I'd fill up the mash tun with strike water. Then when that was full to the right level, I would dough in and start mashing. Now once the mash process started, I would start recirculating the wort. Now what I would do when I did that is I'd open up the mash tun on the bottom, start draining wort out the bottom, it'd go through this manifold here that's hung off of the input of the pump, and I would flip this valve here so it goes to the right. It would go down here to the pump, through the pump, around this pump, and up to the top. I would not mess with the valves now, because on this side, because they were already set for the water. It would go back up to the top here, to the upper manifold, and at this point I would want to go up to the rims. So at this point I would flip this valve here so that it creates a right angle, goes to that rims tube, bottom of the rims tube, out the top of the rims tube, comes down the rims tube pipe here, goes in to this two-way valve, which at this point I would flip to the right angle, pointing to the left for the output, and it would come out this tube here, and it would also go to the sparge arm. So again, it's going to be coming out the bottom, going through the pump, out the pump, up that pipe, up the hose to the top manifold, and then across, up this hose to the rims, up and out the rims, and then down to the sparge arm. So I'd run the sparge arm, keep the rims going to keep the temperature at the right level, raise the temperature if I need to step it up a bit, get ready for mash out. Once I've been done mashing for whatever length of time I want to mash, then comes time to sparge. Well, while I've been mashing, I have my sparge water recirculating and at the right temperature. So at this point, I would turn off the hose going to the rims, and I would open up the sparge water, and I would have the sparge water going across and block it off here, block out the rims, and you see here's the output of the rims up there coming down. It normally went right to here. What I've done is I've changed this valve, and instead of going like this so that the rims wart goes to the hot liquor tank, or excuse me, to the mash tun, I block it off, and now I got sparge water going to the mash tun. So the sparge water would go across there and down the center, two-way thing, end up in the sparge arm. Okay, once I'm done mashing, now one thing I can also do here that I might do to help me in cleanup is, rather than have the hot liquor water go through the sparge arm, I might send it up the top of the rims over here. In fact, that makes a little more sense now that I think about it. Send it up backwards on the rims tube and have it go in the top, have it come out the bottom of the rims tube, flip the rims tube over this way, and then it'll come from this way and go down to the sparge arm, and that would rinse out my rims. Okay, well anyway, this is stuff I'll have to figure out on my first brew day. Okay, once I'm done mashing, I'm still having the mash tun set to drain water out here, although I'm not pumping anything up to the top. So now the mash tun is going to be draining water out, going through the pump, and instead of shooting the water through the pump and back up through the rims, at this point I flip the valve, block this side off on the left hand side, force the water to go to the right, flip this valve here so that I've got an L pointing down, and at that point water travels through that tube into my whirlpool arm, which is there at the bottom of the boil kettle, and the whirlpool arm will transfer the wort into the boil kettle. So I'll be sparging in from the top, through the rims, through the sparge arm from the HLT, I'll go to the mash tun, come out the bottom of the mash tun, go through the bottom pump, and push it over to the sparge arm on the top. Once, or through the whirlpool arm on the boil kettle, on the top of it. Once that is all done, and I got my boil going, after I'm finished boiling, now comes the time to get ready to chill. Now before the boil ends, what I need to do is shoot some water through my chiller down there on the bottom shelf and sanitize that. So this time what I'm going to do is take the water from the bottom of the boil kettle here and open up this valve here, block off this valve over here so that the water goes to the right, or the wort from the boil kettle goes to the right. Again, I'll flip this, go straight through, down and around to the pump, out the pump, around that circle there, up to the top pipe. And in this case, rather than going to the right and going up to the whirlpool arm, I'm going to block this off, force it to go to the left, flip this valve here, so that instead of going across and up to the rims like it was set, or blocking it off like it was set for the whirlpool, now it's going to go down, go into the bottom of my counterflow chiller, come out the top of the counterflow chiller, and this time it's going to go back over to the right, and I'll have this thing, since I blocked it off so that the boiling wort wouldn't go to the left, I've got it coming from the bottom of my chiller, going back here, makes an L down to that same tube again, and now it goes back into the boil kettle through the whirlpool arm. So that's going to be spinning, 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 and it'll be coming out. Now that the boil's done, my counterflow chiller is sanitized. All I have to do to finish things up is do my one hose change, and that's pull the hose off of the top of there, put it into a fermentation bucket, and turn on my chiller. So that's it. A brew day without any hose changes. Pretty slick, I think. I think it's going to be pretty sweet. Here is a plumbing diagram of all the various valves and the hoses going between the valves. You'll notice that I have T's where I use stainless steel pipe to go back and forth, and some of the lines do cross. If you look close, you can see that they actually don't intersect where they go across. The only time where two pipes come together is signified by the T in the pipe. Otherwise, those lines are all crossing over each other. Hope this is helpful for you. Feel free to take a screen print of this and do your own plumbing. There may or may not be easier ways to do this. The way I did it was because I had one good pump and one okay pump. This is really set up for only having one pump. If you had two pumps, you could probably do it a little bit differently and maybe use fewer valves. I don't trust my tan pump for recirculating wort during the mashing process. It used to clog a bit. I suppose with better filtering it would help. I have started using a grain bag in my mash tun, not only for filtering but to help with cleanup. I could try it now, but I haven't. Anyway, I encourage you to do something like this, and if you can, document it and enjoy your brewing. Cheers. Take care.